Thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm Jennifer Flowers. I'm the Executive Director of the Lake Lanier Association. And this is our second virtual town hall Ask the Corps webinar that we've done this year. The previous one was in January. And these were originally Tim's idea. And so we loved it and we were excited to be able to partner with them because it brings a great value to have this dialogue, and it answers a lot of questions for people, which really helps everybody, the public as well as the Corps. And so we are recording this from beginning to end, and I pressed the record this time. And so if you need to leave early, you can find this video. It's going to be on our social media. It's also going to be linked on our website. If you go to lakelanier.org under Get Involved and Stay Informed, we're going to have it posted up there. We're going to add all of our old webinars up there as well. And so we are, they're currently all living on our Facebook if you want to look back at the webinars that we've previously done. A few housekeeping notes. I hope that Tim is still with us. A few housekeeping notes. If you have a question, please enter it into the question and answer box and not the chat function. So we're going to be monitoring the question and answer. And then that way we can just kind of streamline answering these questions. So as Tim presents, I'll come on and ask questions that pertain to what he's discussing. And we're going to go, we're going to wait to do all the Shoreline questions until the end. If you need to leave early, you can go ahead and ask a question, even if it's not something that he's discussing, and we'll just ask it at the appropriate time. And so we do want to steer away from specific questions that wouldn't apply to kind of a broad audience. If you do have more of a very specific question that really pertains to one property, and it wouldn't, you don't foresee it pertaining to a lot of people, send us an email and we can take care of that question kind of off the webinar. So you see, without further ado, I'm going to do some introductions. We have lost Tim though. Let's see if he comes back on. Otherwise, we can't really ask the Corps without Tim. But I will go ahead and introduce Victoria Clevenger, who is on your video there. She is our new communications and membership coordinator. And beside her, we have John Barker, who is our president of our board. He is our fearless leader. And they'll be in the background helping out. We also have Kelly Marlowe, who is on our board. She's in the background. She's not currently on video, but she's gonna be helping with the questions and answers as well. So who you all came to meet and talk with is Tim Rainey. He is the operations project manager for Lake Lanier. And Tim has been at Lake Lanier for 23 years and has been the project manager since 2008. And in total, he's been with the Corps for 28 years. And so if anybody knows Lake Lanier, it's gonna be Tim. And so we really thank him for joining us today and answering all of our questions. So we will go ahead and hand it over to Tim. Thank you, take it away.
And I was here, am I still here?
Yes.
Okay, I was here the whole time. I don't know what was going on. I was listening to you. But good, what is it? Oh, good morning, everybody. I'm already thinking it's afternoon. Anyway, that's how the day goes. Last time I did this, I was at home and I had a big, nice window in front of me with plenty of sunlight that I guess gave me more light, and I guess I'm not as lit up today, but I'm here. I'll go through, I have several topics to talk about, and Jennifer, I apologize. I told you I'd get you something late last night or early this morning. I will go ahead and talk about these, and Jennifer will moderate questions and the folks there with the Lanier Association. And if something comes up pertaining to that, she'll chime in and we'll stop and answer the question. And then later as we go through, I'll have my shoreline management staff in here and we'll meet them. And then toward the end, we'll talk more about shoreline management. I know that's always a big topic. So I'm going to start off with, I'm going to share the screen. So what I want to talk about first is water management. And notice I didn't say lake levels or water releases. I'm going to kind of call it water management. And what I always say from the start is we operate Lake Lanier as part of the overall Apalachicola Chattahoochee Flint system. And if you look at that map, you see Lake Lanier at the top, and then that little I call it little, small yellow bulb above it is the drainage basin for Lake Lanier. So when it rains, it does have to fall within that bulb in the drainage area or the lake for Lake Lanier to benefit from that rainfall. Now, if you look in that system, that's a lot of area in the system that doesn't impact Lake Lanier as far as rainfall. So another piece to this puzzle is, if you look down at the bottom at Jim Woodruff Dam, that is in essence the outflow for the entire ACF system. Now, without getting into the details of how all this works, but the high level scenario, the outflow of the system is based on the rainfall that inflows into the system. So as an example, if there are severe, heavy, big, large rainfall events that occur below Buford Dam, anywhere in that area, even over in the Flint River, that's going to increase the outflow at Buford Dam. Because of all that rain, it's going to eventually flow down there and flow out. But all that water that flows into the entire system determines the outflow from Jim Woodruff. Now, another particular piece with Jim Woodruff is if there's these significant outflow or significant rainfall events in the system, wherever, and I'm just going to use numbers, and by no means are any of these real numbers. I'm just using them for example. Let's say the rainfall that fell in the system gets down to Jim Woodruff, and that creates an outflow of 100,000 CFS. Now, I'll also need to mention that Jim Woodruff or Lake Seminole is not what we call a storage reservoir. It really can't hold water back like Lake Lanier can. So a lot of water goes through there, it just goes over the spillways. So if the outflow of Jim Woodruff is 100,000 CFS, and all that rainfall that came into the system is now has flowed out of Jim Woodruff, in theory, it would go, say, from 100,000 CFS down to 10,000 CFS or 20,000 CFS. Well, we can't do that. Our requirements are, and they're called ramp down requirements at Jim Woodruff. So if there's an outflow of 100,000 CFS at Jim Woodruff, we just can't go one day from 100,000 CFS to the next day at 5 or 10,000 CFS. There's a gradual ramp down, meaning that outflow has to gradually come down. For example, 100,000 CFS one day, 95,000 CFS the next day, 90,000 CFS the next day, and on down. And I'm using these numbers as examples. But the way that impacts us is a lot of times to support that ramp down requirement. Remember, a lot of the rain has exited the system already. That created the high flows to start with. We have to support that ramp down requirement a lot with the conservation storage and the storage reservoirs. The storage reservoirs are Walter F. George, West Point Lake, and Lake Lanier. And of course, out of those three storage reservoirs, the largest is Lake Lanier. Lake Lanier has over 60% of the storage capacity of water for this entire system. So you look in all that area that's shaded yellow, Lake Lanier has the capacity to store over 60% of it. Now, the first storage reservoir above Jim Woodruff is Walter F. George. So they are the first ones to use that conservation storage to support that ramp down rate. Then next up the upriver is West Point. So for example, Walter F. George, excuse me, may drop their lake levels because they're supporting the outflow at Jim Woodruff. Well, West Point may then release some of its water to recharge Walter F. George. Or if West Point and Walter F. George can't support it, then Lake Lanier will send water down, or Lake Lanier will send water down to recharge both West Point and Walter F. George. It just depends. So I'm going to move now to what we look at in our charts, and I know you can't really see these charts, but the top right is Lanier, the bottom left is West Point, and the bottom right is Walter F. George. Oh no, I've got yard work outside the window. Hopefully you can't hear that blower. If you can, let me know and I'll try to get them to stop. But also notice in these charts, and again, you may not be able to see the numbers, but the top of the conservation storage, from the top of the conservation storage to the bottom of the conservation storage at Lake Lanier is 35 feet of what we call storage capacity. At West Point, that amount is 15 feet of storage capacity. At Walter F. George, that amount is 6 feet of storage capacity. So looking in those terms, with only 6 feet of storage capacity, Walter F. George can get down to the bottom pretty quick. Walter F. George West Point somewhere in the interim. In Lake Lanier, it's very difficult to get to the bottom of conservation storage. The bottom of conservation storage at Lake Lanier is 1,035 feet above sea level. So take the full pool elevation, 1070 in the winter, 1071 in the summer. So in the summer, 36 feet of conservation storage. So that just gives an example of the differences between the storage reservoirs and the capacity of the water. And I want to draw your attention to, if we can look, and I'm going to use my mouse. And this is May and June. And you see mid-May, I'm going to start at Walter F. George. Early May, Walter F. George went down to this next black line, which is called an action zone. I'll explain that in just a minute. But you see Walter F. George went down pretty steeply. Now that was most likely in support of ramp down requirements at Jim Woodruff. Since they were down, then West Point released some water to help out Walter F. George. They almost got to the bottom of their conservation storage, or did get there. Lanier was sitting up here, okay, and this more gradual decline, yes, we sent water down, but with Lanier being so big, it's not as steep. So this water going down went to recharge West Point. You see that going up. The water West Point had previously released to recharge Walter F. George is over here, and you see Walter F. George going up. So when we talk about operating Lake Lanier as part of the overall system, this is just a window into one piece of that, of what we look at when we're managing the system. The other pieces to note in here, these black lines you see on each are what we call action zones. So the first gap between the first and the second black line is action zone 1. Between the second and third is action zone 2. Between the third and fourth, between the first and second, action zone 1. Between the second and third, action zone 2. Between the third and fourth, action zone 3. Beneath the fourth is what we call action zone 4. And that's in all the reservoirs. All the reservoirs are different, so they have different action zones. The action zones come into play. We try to operate all 3 reservoirs to keep them in the same action zone. So that's just another thing to point out. When Walter F. George was going 2 and below action zone 2, West Point was going down to action zone 2. Lanier was still in action zone 1. So we're going to release water to bring West Point and Walter F. George back up into action zone 1. And when we do that, we're all in sync. We're all in the same relative position in the action zone, and we consider it operating a balanced system. So that's a lot of information in water management, at least how we look at and comparing it or utilizing other reservoirs. There's a lot of other things that play into this, but I can stop now for questions if there's any.
There it is.
Yeah, I actually hated staring into the screen and not being able to see where I was in the frame.
There you
But can
are.
you see me and the slide?
Yes, we can see you now. Hello. So we had a question of kind of how does Georgia Power play into the water releases? I know that they do have a few dams along the way. So how does that work with the system that you're managing?
All right. So there's two pieces to that really. One is the power, well, it's not Georgia Power. All right. So Morgan Falls Dam beneath us, they, and I'll bring it up in just a minute. First, I'll talk about it. First question, you can see me now and the slide?
Yes.
Okay. We operate as what we call a peaking plant, meaning, well, how do I do this best? All right, I'll back up and try to go into it a little bit more. So and I've done this before, but maybe folks haven't heard it. What we do as the Corps of Engineers, when we look at this system, we determine how much water needs to be released from each reservoir in the entire system based on all the downstream needs, weather forecasts, et cetera, et cetera. We do that on a weekly basis, but then we also kind of re-verify it and make adjustments if necessary on a daily basis. So we determine, and I'm just going to use Lake Lanier and Beaufort Dam, we determine a quantity of water that we have to send downstream. And we do that in either, we put it in cubic feet per second, or we'll say, we'll tell the SEPA, the Southeastern Power Administration, a number of hours. But for simplicity's sake, I'll just say with cubic feet per second. So I'm just going to, again, use a number. We say we need to send downstream from Beaufort 10,000 CFS today. And we tell that to SEPA. SEPA takes that quantity of water, that cubic feet per second, converts it, knowing the megawatts we can produce in Beaufort Dam, and converts it to how much power can be produced. When they determine how much power can be produced, they go out to the market, preferred customers, and the preferred customers is not going to be Georgia Power, but I'll get to that in a minute. It's going to be the local utilities, electric, and they say, we have this much power, how much do you want and when do you want it? So I'll respond to SEPA and claim their power for the times they want it. And that's really what sets the schedule. And that's why we don't go far out in advance, because one, it's subject to change. And then again, that's how SEPA sets the schedule. So generally speaking, between 2 and 9 p.m. in the summer months is what we call peaking time. That's when the most demand for electricity occurs. So generally our releases will be between 2 and 9 p.m. based on initially how much water we need to send downstream. And then since we're going to send it downstream, we're going to go ahead and generate the power. SEPA is going to market it, sell it to the customers, and provide them that power during those releases. Now, all that to describe the peaking operations of Beaufort Dam. So in peaking operations means we support power or support the power grid during the high times or times when power demand is highest. So that's big slugs of water going downstream. What Morgan Falls does, and this is where I'll go to this next one. Another requirement is we're required to maintain a flow at Peachtree Creek of 750 cubic feet per second. So if we release big slugs of water, well, how do we maintain a constant 750 CFS? Well, that's what Morgan Falls helps us do. They kind of re-regulate those slugs of water and provide a more continuous release to ensure we can maintain 750 CFS at Peachtree Creek. Does that answer the question?
I believe so. So we did have a few other questions. Okay, so we have a question that says, so the rain area or the watershed above Lake Lanier seems small. So how does Lake Lanier, kind of the question is, how does Lake Lanier control flow for the whole area? We have it is kind of one of those things when you know that we have the smallest watershed, the largest lake.
Yeah, good question. So the watershed, going back to it, is very small. It's about 1,040 square miles. And if we looked at the same thing at Lake Allatoona, they have about the same, this is just an example, same size watershed, but Lake Allatoona is a third the size of Lake Lanier. So Allatoona can fluctuate a lot more than Lake Lanier does. For example, Lake Lanier's summer pool is 1071, winter pool is 1070. Lake Allatoona's summer pool is 840, and their winter pool is 823. So every year they go down 17 feet because they do fluctuate more. It goes to the storage capacity. Lake Lanier can hold over 60% of the storage capacity for the system. So that's basically the faucet for the system. The majority of the water's there. And yes, West Point and Walter F. George help balance that system out, but the majority of the water is in Lake Lanier. So let's go back to the 2005, 6, 7, 8 drought. Literally what happened, as I described before, Walter F. George and West Point were both at the bottom of their conservation pool. So Lake Lanier during those years, and why we went down to 1050 and continued to release water, Lake Lanier was supplying water or providing water to support the entire system because Walter F. George and West Point could not. Now look over at the Flint River system. The ACF system, the entire system was authorized by Congress in the Rivers and Harbors Act of 1946. The dams and reservoirs and locks and everything on the Chattahoochee side were constructed in the late 40s and 50s. The Flint River, the Corps of Engineers had, I think, 3 other dams and reservoirs scheduled, planned, and proposed for the Flint River. But sometime in the 70s, those dams and reservoirs, those projects were deauthorized by Congress. So the Corps of Engineers does not have dams and reservoirs on the Flint system, meaning in the big picture, for the ACF system as a whole, we can only control what flows down the Chattahoochee Riverside. So my scenarios earlier about outflow of Jim Woodruff, there could be a huge rain event that parks over the Flint River system that does not impact the Chattahoochee River at all, but it increases the flow out of Jim Woodruff Dam because it's in the Flint River, which we cannot control. And we'll still have to provide water to support the ramp down rates because the outflow is increased from increased flows from the Flint system.
And then actually we kind of had a question about that as well. So the purpose, say again, the purpose of the ramp down.
The purpose of the ramp down is to protect endangered species in the Apalachicola River downstream. That's my understanding of it. When the water gets up for a period of time, those species will climb up the bank. And if we just drop the water down without going down slowly and giving them time to follow the water back down, we'd end up harming, or from the Fish and Wildlife Service's perspective, it would be considered a taking of those endangered species. So we have to make sure that those species can follow the water back down. So we ramp down the water slow enough so they have time to do that.
And then are the releases within the respective reservoirs action zones, are they coordinated manually or are they all automated?
Well, so our water managers in Mobile District look at this stuff constantly. So that part is the manual part. They look at everything, look at all the inflows, look at all the gauges, talk to the National Weather Service, talk to the U.S. Southeast River Forecast Center, talk to all the entities that are going to take water. They figure out what needs to be, put it into a system that determines the quantities. So they have to collect the data to provide the input into the I don't even know the system they use. I'll just call it a SWIM, Civil Works Water Management System. And that'll help. It'll produce something that the water managers then look at and come to decisions on how much water to release from every reservoir, each reservoir, to keep balance in the system. So I'd say both.
Okay. And I think the last question on this one, so we just received the Water Wars ruling that was favorable towards Georgia. Does that affect how you're managing the system as a whole, or from Lake Lanier?
I can't speak to water war stuff. I'm not a lawyer. That's a legal thing way over my head. However, what I will say is we did get our updated water control manual approved and authorized in 2017. And we have been operating and will continue to operate the system according to that water control manual. As of yet, I've not heard anything as a result of that ruling that is making any changes to that water control manual. But the big thing is, as of yet, we're going to continue operating in accordance with that water control manual until directed from above.
Okay, so I know we want to move past this. I did have a couple more questions. Actually, two questions came in on the same thing, so I'm gonna go ahead and ask it. Have you ever considered increasing the holding capacity in Lake Lanier from 1071 to 1073 or something greater than that 1071 summer water level?
Well, unfortunately, I'll give you my bureaucratic answer. Is the Corps of Engineers operates the reservoir in accordance with Congress. So if the elevation's 1071, we're going to operate it. If they choose elevations 1073, we'll operate it in that fashion. Now that's a simple, again, I admit, bureaucratic response. I don't know that it's the Corps' purview to recommend what the elevation should be. There will be a lot of different impacts. Those are there. I can't speak to, the pros and cons and whether the benefits outweigh the impacts, et cetera, et cetera. I know there also comes to a piece, though, where if we're going to raise the elevation of Lake Lanier by 2 feet, well, we're a multi-purpose reservoir, and that's directed by Congress as well. So if we raise the elevation 2 feet, remember all that capacity, we look at it in terms of capacity. So that water serves water supply, hydropower, navigation downstream, water quality downstream, recreation, environmental stewardship. So how would we allocate that extra 2 feet amongst all those different purposes? So there's a lot of factors in play there. I don't know I can give you a straight answer other than it would have to be a congressional action.
I think those are the last questions that we had kind of pertaining to this. So I'll exit and let you keep on going.
All right, I'm going to try to switch screens. I want to talk a little bit about recreation and in the realm of its value. Just one away. And these numbers are going to be from 2019. Recreation, we all know it's big at Lake Lanier. What I want to pull up here is the economic benefits. Again, this data is 2019. And the visitation to Lake Lanier in 2019, I'm not going to read the numbers. You can look at them. The prominent ones, I think, are almost $700 million in visitor spending within 30 miles of Lake Lanier. Almost 5,000 jobs supported within 30 miles of Lake Lanier. This one down here is big. I cannot explain it. I just know it's a economists use this, but $111 million in national economic development benefits. Now, with Lake Lanier being such a recreation reservoir, but we are multi-purpose, and then at least kind of within the Corps of Engineers and federal government, recreation's almost a byproduct, so to speak. And when people hear the term or name Corps of Engineers, they think of harbors and navigation channels and dams and flood risk and hydropower and things like that. And it's, you think of National Park Service and you think about parks and recreation. We don't have that same kind of response for recreation when we say Corps of Engineers. But looking specifically at Lake Lanier and Beaufort Dam, looking at that $111 million in national economic development benefits, specifically here, hydropower is only $14 million in national economic development benefits. So what this does is let me, internal to the Corps, use that information and say, from our, when I'm turning in budget requests and say, I'd prefer you get more bang for the buck if you invest in real estate than hydropower. I can't go out through our whole budgeting process, but that is a tool I use. And I want to, these fact sheets are available to the public at this web address, iwr.usace.army.mil, missions value to the nation. Now you'll have to select when you go to that website, you'll have to select the lake, select recreation. You can play with that and find it. My point in doing this is to get this information more out to the public, and help demonstrating the value of the economic benefits of the recreation program. So that's just one thing I want to try to do, and pass this along and publicize this as much as I can, because as we all know, budgets aren't getting any bigger. So, I mean, even the Corps of Engineers, when we're talking a multi-purpose project like Lake Lanier, recreation competes against hydropower, competes against flood risk management, competes against even navigation, even though we don't have navigation here at Lake Lanier. That big storage capacity of water in Lake Lanier, we can send water downstream to support navigation on the lower Chattahoochee below Columbus. So everybody's competing for the same money, and this is just one of the things I use in my justifications for my recreation budget packages. So I'm going to stop everything now, I hope.
All right, quick question.
Either take some questions now, or I'm going to go into water quality next.
I have a quick question that kind of, I guess, pertains to what you just said. The new infrastructure bill that was recently passed, is there any funding in that bill for operations at Lake Lanier or the ACF system? And
it's not going to be specific. It's not going to be specific. I'm sorry, there's a lag. I'm seeing your lips move, and about 3 seconds later, the voice comes. So bear with me a bit. It's not specific to Lake Lanier, but we do feel good, the Corps of Engineers as an agency, that will get some of that money, and we, across all business lines. So for example, I mean, we've been going through exercises, and I couldn't tell you the amount of projects. When I say projects, new bathrooms, riprap, paving roads, just whatever. And I'll say specific with the recreation program. I call them packages because I have to say, I want to do this work for this amount of money, and here's why, and here's what will happen if I don't get it. That's a nutshell of a budget package. I don't know how many, but I think I totaled it up, and there's about $22 million. So that's what I'm going after. I don't know what I'm going to get. It certainly won't be that much, but I hope to get some of it. Yes, is the answer to the question.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Moving from recreation to water quality. So water quality is a purpose or part of one of our missions of Lake Lanier, but when we look at it in that sense as a mission, it's actually water quality for downstream. And that specifically is what that 750 CFS flow requirement is for, is water quality downstream. Now, when we look at the lake water quality, and we know there's more algal blooms, and we know there's more of that cyanobacteria, all of that still remains the primary responsibility and jurisdiction of the state of Georgia, primarily under the Environmental Protection Division. So we will help them as much as we can. We will assist them, but the statutory requirement for water quality in the lake itself rests still with the state of Georgia. Second to that is one of the biggest contributors to water quality and issues and turbidity is sedimentation and erosion. But the primary sources of that are the non-point sources and runoff, urban runoff. And that's reflected in the EPD's water quality reports. So my point here is when the coves in the back of the creeks and coves, backs of coves and everything turn orange and red and are bringing in all that sediment, All of that is coming from off, most of it is coming from off of project lands. There's some kind of development going on private lands. It come a rainstorm that washes off. They have their silt fences up. They have everything up, but it still comes through. Now, that may not be the responsibility. It's overall, it's still EPD's responsibility, but EPD has delegated the authority down to the local jurisdictions, and they're called local issuing authority. So Hall County has local issuing authority. City of Gainesville can be local issuing authority. City of Cumming can be a local issuing authority. Forsyth County can be a local issuing authority. Whatever jurisdiction the development is happening in, that jurisdiction is responsible as that local issuing authority. They're the ones that are responsible for all erosion and sedimentation, basically the enforcement of the state and E&S erosion and sedimentation laws. Some jurisdictions may have additional requirements, but when a cove gets stained and sediments are coming in, yes, the lake and we as the Corps of Engineers are victims as well. But we have little recourse to go enforce anything on them. We have to rely on those local issuing authorities. An example, kind of a big example I'll use is when Lake Alice failed in Forsyth County over in near the city of Cumming. When that dam failed and everything rushed into the back of that cove in Lake Lanier, everybody called the Corps of Engineers to do something. Well, we had to call the state. And it was the state who actually issued the consent orders against the property owners requiring them to remove that sediment from Lake Lanier. And once they did, they restored what we consider, they restored our storage capacity and removed the quantity of sediment that entered. Then we said we were satisfied, and EPD removed the consent order. So we don't mind getting the phone calls on those issues. We'll call the local issuing authorities and report it as well. But my point here is to have you call those local issuing authorities also.
And I will just say that we have a great section on our website under our Say Something program that lists off all of those local issuing authorities, and also our erosion sedimentation page. I kind of will point you to who to call and who to contact and what to let them know. And also, if you let us know as well, we can follow up with those local issuing authorities as needed. We have had some questions, and it kind of goes with Shoreline, so you can hold it till the end if you would like. If there is some erosion that's happening on the actual core land, that's getting gullies or washouts, is that something that people can fix and address, or is that within the shoreline management plan somewhere?
I'll defer. Chief Ranger Craig Sowers will be here. I'm gonna let him explain it in more detail. I can give a general response, but I'm gonna let him handle it.
Okay, sounds good.
Next, I'm gonna go to our master plan update. We're still in process. We're can almost touch the finish line. We've gotten the narrative. Everything's finished. We hope to publish the EA. I have to call it the draft EA, environmental assessment, either mid to late July, I'm thinking, or maybe I think it was August 1st was the date. We still plan on having, I say we still, I know we're about a year behind, the EA finalized and FONSI signed by the end of September. So we expect our new master plan to be approved by the end of September. I'll say fall, but honestly, the date September 23rd I'm looking at. That's just where we are. Just wanted to give an update on that. I will move on to our navigation map. And it turned my video off again. All right, hopefully you see our web page. Yes, no, maybe?
Yes, we're good.
Okay. Well, you can find out information about the master plan update here. I'll just run down this. This is the menu, dam safety program. Here's more information on water management, lake levels, etc. You have to click on a bunch of this stuff and you can get to those charts. Jennifer, that's a question. I've got a sheet of website addresses. I don't know. I can get that to you. I don't know how you'd get it out to either who's attending or just in general. We can work on that. Oh no, I clicked on something. We can work that after this.
Yes, if you send it out, I can
navigation
even,
markers. Come down here to the map room. Go ahead.
Sorry, if you send it out, I can even add it onto the back of this recording, and we can include it in the webinar.
Okay. I've got it almost done, but let's see, that's our address. Yeah, I've got them on there. All right, so anyway, come to our website. You can just Google USACE Lake Lanier if you don't already have it bookmarked. Click on Map Room. Come here to the Lake Lanier Nav Map online. Okay, so this is what you'll see. The whole lake's in here. I'll just pick one. You're out someday, find this is marker number 16 off of Aqualand Arena. Let's say you find this marker down. You can click on it, get this USACE ID number 556. That's the best way to let us know what marker it is that's down. And we can then, when we know the exact one, we don't have to go out and search for it and do that. We can pretty much go right to it. Now there's another part of this. Unfortunately, maybe I'm on the wrong one. Well, I'm going to add, if there's another one, I'm going to add it. I pulled up the wrong one. I thought there was a spot in here. You could actually report it as, well, this one says missing right here. I may be on an older version. I apologize. But I'll put that on the website sheet I send to you, Jennifer, when we finish here. But you can report it on here, I believe, as missing, damaged, whatever. And that just goes into our system and we'll go get it done. We're tracking, I think, and I'm going by my operations and maintenance contractor, 20 or so markers and buoys that are approved and they need to go fixed. There's 50 more that are waiting to be reviewed. And waiting to be reviewed is, and Lanier Association is helping us with that, is the elevations we have in our database are not showing correctly. I'll say that. It may be that the marker is still needing repaired, but when I look in the database and it says the marker is marking a hazard at elevation 1050, well, it causes me a little concern because if something's that deep, it really doesn't need to be marked. No.
So if somebody does have an issue and sees a down marker, they can also report it on the Lake Lanier Association's website. And then we just go in and we send that over to the Corps. We just are able to email it over to them. So if you're not able to figure out how to report it on the navigation map, or like by calling the project management office, just go on our website and you can report it there and we'll get it over to them. And I will say you can also get to that map. I love the navigation map. If you just Google Lake Lanier Nav Map, it will come up as one of your top choices if you're on Google.
I got you back. I have no idea where all my stuff went, but now I'm back. So I closed a lot of those things out, the nav map. Yeah. I got 9 minutes to go over website real quick, and then, well, first I'll back up to abandoned docks and boats. We did get a few, had some successes, and we've gotten a few docks off the lake. We've gone to get the Brownsbridge houseboat off. I honestly don't know if it's off or not. They went to go get it once and couldn't get it and had to go back. So we're steadily working on those, but we're about to run out of money to get them. But we'll go till it's done. We meet quarterly or frequently with Lanier Association and the county solicitors and the State Department of Natural Resources. We've come up with a kind of a new list of ones we're going to focus on and go after. There's kind of two sides to that. Docks, they could just be abandoned. We have no idea whose they are. And then that just becomes an expense to the government for us to go out and get it and haul it off to the dump. Others, we can either somehow trace it back to the owner via a permit or via somebody reporting it. Or if we've got pictures in our database and we can go search it and research it and match it up. And we'll hold the last permittee responsible. So bottom line, if you have a dock permit and you sell your dock to somebody and they take it off and put it on the lake somewhere and never change the permit or anything, and that dock comes back to you, we're going to hold you responsible unless you can give us some kind of bill of sale or put us on the trail of who you sold it to, and then we'll go after them. So it's quite tedious in trying to track these things back. I wish we could figure out a way to get a VIN number on them or something, but we've had some successes. It does take money. We're going more and playing a little more, and I just like a better word, say hardball, in trying to hold the people responsible, accountable, rather than spending the government's money, the taxpayers' money on disposing of these docks that should have been done by their owners initially. And saying that, a lot of what we need is your help and just watching. You see somebody out there pushing a dock across the lake. Not asking you to contact them or stop them or anything, but as quick as you can, let us know. If you can, get us a picture. Or you see somebody in the evening pushing a dock on a shoreline, or an island is the best. You can see somebody there on an island. Well, there's no docks on the island. Let us know. And because the quicker we can try to get to them, the better chance we have of finding who's responsible and put it there. And I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer to talk about the See Something, Say Something.
Yeah, so we just launched a See Something, Say Something program, which is essentially a way to gather all this information, whether it's abandoned docks, boats, lights that are down, erosion sedimentation problems, or a overabundance of algae growth. And it's linked on our homepage. And when you first pull up lakelanier.org, at the very top banner, you'll see a little button that says See Something, Say Something. And you can click on that and it'll take you to the homepage and kind of direct you through what we're looking for each of these instances, because it really kind of depends on the issue that you find or that you've seen as to what information we really need. So as Tim pointed out, if it's a marker, we need that US US ACE ID number to really know which marker we're talking about. If it's a boat or dock, the photos and any photos on any of these actually are extremely helpful. So from those pages, you can go to our report. They're all linked to our report a problem page. And from there, you can tell us what the issue is. You can upload a photo with it, and you can include information. And that comes to the Lake Lanier Association, and then we forward out these reports. So we try to help the Corps so that they streamline it a little bit for them. If we've already received a couple reports on a marker, we don't report that to them multiple times, but we will follow up and say, hey, this is one that's of a concern. Same thing with the boat. If it's already added to our list, we have a mapping and a tracking of our boats, and we're soon going to hopefully, our docks, we're going to hopefully have that online soon. So you'll see which ones have been previously reported. And so we are working on that. But if you do go to lakelanier.org under the See Something, Say Something, or Report a Problem, we have all that information there. And always reach out to us if you see any issues, even if they're not listed they're on the program, we're always here to help and to help kind of streamline sending that information to the correct person, the correct entity who will deal with that if it's not us. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna take it back real quick and go back to our website. Yeah. You may see, the Shoreline staff's coming in here. We're gonna get to them in just a minute, but I wanna go here first. And I'm gonna have to change cameras, but we'll get there in just a minute. All right, you back on the website?
Yes, we are.
The video went off, all right. So now coming down to, I think there was a question about trees. If trees fall down, can you chop them up? And I forget exactly what the question is, but there's a nice Lake Lanier tree fact sheet here you can click on and find out the information. Bottom line is, yes, you need to call the office. If a tree falls down on core property, our preference is just let it lay. Depending on circumstances, we may let you cut it up, but we'd want you to scatter it about the property. But the bottom line is, first, yes, call the office. I'm not going to get into hazardous trees, et cetera, et cetera. You can look at the fact sheet and see that. But bottom line would be yes to call the office. So next, I'm going to go to Shoreline Management, just to the website part real quick. Click on Shoreline Management. And this is just to let you know where the plan is. The 2004 Shoreline Management Plan is right here. There have been some administrative changes, so there's the change here. The environmental impact statement that supports that plan is here. I'm just going down these because they're here. This is the 2000 Home Preservation Act. Basically, it gave us authority to dispose of certain properties that were encroachments. If you really want to get into reading stuff, there's our old plan, 1988 plan. More administrative changes here. What else to point out to them, Jennifer, on here?
I think those are kind of the main things on that plan. Is, can you tell us about like what's in the plan, or do you want to wait to go over that?
Yeah, I'll introduce the staff here first, and we can go through some of that, and some of it I may defer to the staff and Chief Ranger Sowers. He deals with it every day. He can answer the questions better than me. I will just go down this side over here, forms and brochures, things that are on here that you can use if you need. What's not on here that we look for is, and maybe Greg can speak to this a little bit more later, is dredging applications. We do that really under a specified acts permit, but there are some certain criteria you have to send to us so we can make a determination and issue that permit. We're actually, put it in simple terms, this office actually has a permit from the Corps of Engineers Regulatory Office in Savannah District, because Savannah Regulatory has the state of Georgia as far as regulatory. Dredging actions are considered regulatory actions. So they give us a permit to issue minor dredge permits up to 500 cubic yards. 5,000 cubic yards. So we can issue them that sense. If it's over that, you'll have to get an individual permit through the Savannah District Regulatory Office. So it just an example of somewhat of the hierarchy and the information we require to do that. So now, without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to change my camera.
Wait, before you do that, so if somebody does want a dredging permit, what do they need to do?
Hopefully it works. First, call our office and request a dredging permit, or send an email. And that's the other thing I put on the sheet, or the area ranger emails. So you're going to meet these folks here in just a second. And yeah, they have names, but we're in our email stuff, we're not putting contact a specific ranger. We're putting contact area 1 or area 2 or area 3. Because these rangers may rotate areas, they may rotate jobs, they may go somewhere else. And it's just better if we have an area rather than a particular person. We have in the past had somebody leave, and there were thousands of emails in that individual's email box that we never got because she left, and it created some problems. So we've learned from our lesson in that respect, and I'll put those email addresses on the sheet I send you. I closed it and forgot to hit the stop sharing button. I'm going to switch this to the overall camera, which will kind of show the office.
So you see everyone, we can't hear anything if you are speaking though. So I will go ahead and answer a question. So somebody asked, what can you do with dock floats that are floating around the lake? And so one of the things that you can do with those is we are going to have shore sweep on September 25th, which is coming up in a couple of months. And that is a time period we'll have 12 sites across the lake that you can bring those floats to dispose of them. We're also going to have advanced sites, with those advanced sites, then you can drop them off within 2 weeks ahead of time. And then from there, we'll collect them the day of shore sweep. And actually, Steve Katz just threw in a note that I don't know why I didn't think about it. So if you go, Tim, you can try to go to your audio settings and make sure that you're pulling in the right audio setting. It could be like right by your microphone. It could be that it's just set to the wrong audio input. And that there's this test button. Oh, I didn't think of that. So somebody asked, I'm just going to just keep answering these questions while we're waiting. Somebody asked if there's a place that throughout the year, if they can take dock floats and trash and kind of like abandoned lake toys. And there's not a place that people can take things throughout the year. We do have some mini cleanups if there's an area or a cove that is extremely bad with a lot of trash, if there's a lot of buildup and collection, then we can schedule a mini cleanup and we can get a dumpster to be able to do that. We do hope long term, we've been trying to work with a facility that could recycle these large dock floats and turn them back into energy, but just don't know if that's something that we're going to be able to have happen. But if we can, then we would set up kind of some long-term collection sites. I'm going to see if I can call Tim. I'm going to try to call you. Maybe we can just put you on speakerphone and let the world hear. Let's try this.
That might work.
You guys are good.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
You're good.
Yeah.
All right, Craig. Where'd you go?
I'm right here.
Are you in there? Okay. Craig Sowers, go ahead and introduce your staff. You'll have to move and whatever. That's kind of the spot.
Right here? Okay. Well, good morning. My name is Craig Sowers. I've been on Lake Lanier as a ranger for 19 years. I'm the chief ranger for the shoreline management section. I assumed that role this past August. It's been a whirlwind, but we're glad to be here. I'll introduce or let the rest of the team introduce themselves.
Adam?
Good afternoon. My name's Adam Tom. I've been at the Shoreline for about 6 months. I'm the administrative assistant for all the rangers. I mostly deal with all the billing and financial aspects of all the dock permits.
Jerry?
I'm Jerry Neese. I've been here about 2 months, and currently I'm not assigned to an area, but I'll probably be going to area 5 or 6. You might have seen me working in area 2 right now, assisting Bill.
Weston?
Hi there, I'm Weston Frine. I'm the Area 1 Ranger. It's mainly that southwest area. I've been here almost a year, started in October, and that's about it. Thanks.
All right. Tyler?
Good afternoon. My name is Tyler Sessions. My preferred pronouns are they, them, there. I am the area ranger for Area 3, which represents for the northeast section of the lake. I have been with the Shoreline since October, so about a little over 9 months now, and just happy to be on board.
Phil?
Hello, my name is Philip Stavali. I've been here at Lake Lanier since March of 2008. And I cover Area 2, which is basically from Keithsbridge Road, also includes Dawson and Lumpkin County, Murrayville, and the areas off of Price Road, which is Highway 136.
Phil and Jason, after you're done, Phil, stay in here. I just want, you can stay over there for a second, but Eddie.
Good morning. My name's Eddie Grimes. I'm a new ranger here, still in training. Haven't really been assigned an area yet. I may get some of the kind of miscellaneous and odd issues around the lake.
Kayla.
Hey y'all, I'm Kayla Sprague. I'm a new ranger here too. I've been working here since October. I'm an area ranger. I'm kind of floating around right now. I've mostly been working with Area 3 and Tyler or Phil lately, so you might have heard me call you or seen me around, but that's my areas.
Jason.
I'm Jason Couch. I've been a ranger on Lanier since 2003. I work in the southeastern side of the lake, anything off Buford Dam Road. Well, from the southeast side of Fall Ridge Creek to the southeast side of Browns Bridge. Everything over in Flowers Branch, Gainesville, Flowers Branch, Oakwood, and Buford, and Cumming.
Stay there. Phil, come up. So two people we have missing are Ranger Mark Millwood and another administrative support person, Debbie Meeks. All right. So we are full staffed?
Yes.
The reason I had Phil and Jason stay here, and if Mark was here, he'd stand there. Because if I did this last year, they would have been the only three present. We might have had some people come and go, Melody, Nicholas, and Carl, and Linda. But we've had kind of a revolving door. And anyway, I'm happy to have all those people walk through here so we can do our program fully staffed rather than not. And Mark and Phil and Jason not only handling their areas and handling what's going on, but when these new folks come in, you know, they get saddled, so to speak, with training them and getting them up to speed. So these guys here and Mark have carried a heavy workload for quite a number of years, and we're hoping we can keep these folks that you just met and take a little bit of load off these guys, but help us out in getting done what we need to get done. All right. That's all I have for introducing the staff. I'm going to ask Craig to stay with me. If there's any other questions, hopefully we can hear.
Are you able to hear me again?
I'm not hearing you. So you can hear me without this, right? All right. This has to do with creating bird habitat and habitat for endangered plant species native to Georgia on core property. Basically submit a plan of what they want to plant and do.
Yeah, we would look at it, we would review the plan. It would not directly go through shoreline management, it would go more to our natural resources section.
Yeah, can you hear Craig okay?
So with the proposal, we just have to know the area that the work wants to be done in, the type of work that wants to be done, who would maintain it. It is not something that is common. So we would have to review whether it meets our land use plans for the area, what are the long range impacts, who's going to manage it long term. So there's a lot that goes in there, but the starting point is submit a plan to our office and move.
All right, there's questions, a couple of questions about with a lot of rains and runoff and eroding down government property, can they put filter fabric in it? Can they put rock in it? What specifically can they do on some of these gullies that have become gullies because of water runoff, storm, rain runoff?
Okay. The best course of action is to try to control it uphill first. So any sort of control that can be done on private property to slow and disperse before it gets to government property is our first option there. The second option would be, the second thing we're going to look at is the gully vegetated? Is it a natural wooded area? Because having something with a natural, healthy, forested area is going to help control the erosion. If there is any sort of mowing or clearing going on in that area, it's just going to exacerbate the erosion. So the second approach is going to be to get a healthy vegetative buffer back onto core property if that is missing. Beyond that, we can look to review any type of plans to add structures that might help slow or dissipate the water. The bottom line is we can do several things. All of those things mentioned could be done, but it may not be appropriate in every site. So we would again look to have a plan submitted to our office or developed in conjunction with the area ranger and then proposed to me for review and approval.
All right, let's see. This has to do with trees and vegetation on the shoreline, and believe me, sympathize with the person asking this question here. And I'll just read it. I live on the lake, and my understanding is that the core property is supposed to be left natural, other than my 6-foot trail. While we comply with that rule, it seems that we're in the vast minority. We would love to clean the underbrush between our home and the lake like others. Is there a legal way to do this? If not, how is it that so many others are doing this without penalty? So I'm going to take this first and just say thank you. We have potential for limited underbrushing that I'm going to let Craig explain in detail, but we have a significant, I'll call it a serious problem with unauthorized vegetation removal, unauthorized cutting, unauthorized clearing of vegetation on government land. And the without penalty piece, you know, that's something, as you saw the staffing, and even prior to that, though, there's a lot going out there that we have not caught. When we have caught them, there's some unfortunate, well, I shouldn't say unfortunate. There are processes we have to take, and then there's some evidentiary rules we have to meet. And I'll say it's a work in progress, but I have worked with my district office, our Office of Counsel. We're in the process of working with the U.S. Attorney's Office, and we are going to start addressing these more often, more frequently, and kind of as I said with the docks, we're going to be a little bit more hard, because to me it's unacceptable to have the amount of unauthorized clearing we have going on, and we've got to start holding people accountable. And that's one of the things we're trying to do. We've made great progress over the years in getting our process straight. We just got to implement it. So, you know, for those that are doing it, I'm sorry, we're going to come after you. For those that haven't, thank you. And Craig, I'll let you address what they can do.
Okay, so real quick, I want to piggyback off what Tim said there on the enforcement side. You all met Eddie Grimes. He is the ranger who will be assuming some of these longer-term, bigger enforcement issues that we'll be taking on, such as what we call a timber trespass, or clearing vegetation from core property without approval. The other thing that he will be taking on are derelict boats and docks. So he's going to take on these bigger, longer term enforcement actions that don't cure themselves overnight. The second thing I wanted to point out is this kind of goes into the last question about erosion. The reason that we don't allow a lot of this clearing of the understory is because when it is cleared, it is more susceptible to erosion. So in helping to protect the resource that we have, the lake and the land surrounding it, the best way to do that is to have that healthy vegetative buffer between the public property, private property, and the lake. So that's the reason we don't allow a lot of it. We do have a minor area that we can allow some underbrushing in certain circumstances. Again, this is all developed with a plan that is submitted to the area ranger. So the theme here is work with your area ranger to do all of these things. But the plan basically allows for a limited area adjacent to the pathway that can be cleared of understory type growth. And when I say limited, it's just 5 feet either side of the pathway. And that is by permit only. It is not automatically approved with your pathway. And it does require a written plan and a site diagram on where the what we would call underbrushing permit would be issued. But what it does not allow for, where it gets complicated, is removal of what we call overstory type species. So while you could cut an invasive plant that's growing up in that underbrushing area, you could not cut an oak tree. So it is very complicated, and it requires some direction from the area ranger, and it is something that you want to enter into with confidence so that you don't do something wrong that results in one of these enforcement actions. So we can look at it, we can review it with you if you're interested in that.
All right, thanks, Craig. So I'm gonna take Jennifer's advice and run on, jump around some of these questions. I'm scrolling down, I can see we're not gonna get to all of them. I will ask Jennifer, hopefully you're recording these and we can look at them after the fact and somehow we can get an answer. All right, so there's several questions on process and paperwork. So we just saw we do have a full staff, but we unfortunately are backlogged again. The only good news I can say in that backlog is with our Adam, our administrative person, and now Debbie getting trained up on administrative person, we're not backlogged for the fact of processing the permits in the system. To be honest, we're backlogged in the signature thing, in the signature aspect. So the backlog right now is sitting with me and Craig and one other, our supervisor, natural resource program manager, who have authorization to sign the permits. And yeah, I just admit that they're there. We're trying to work through some of the backlog. Can you give me an idea as far as appointment times and meetings? If somebody has a change of ownership, what do they need to do? Or there's some in there, you know, I sent my paperwork in 10 months ago, a year, and haven't heard anything. What do they need to do?
Okay. The bottom line with just anything that seems to be held up or isn't following through like you think it should is to know who your area ranger is and contact them directly. So just a little quick explanation of all the staff. We had, the lake is divided into 4 areas currently. Each of those areas is assigned area ranger. You heard two of the rangers, Kayla and Jerry, mention areas 5 and 6. So as soon as they finish their training, we will redivide the lake into 6 areas, which will help us just with the volume and the workload. So knowing who that area ranger is and being able to contact them directly with a question is your first step in getting those things corrected. As far as appointments go, each area ranger has 2 days out of the week where we can schedule an appointment with you to meet on site for any sort of request, problem, concern that you need some help with. We do 4 appointments a day, 2 days a week. So multiply that out by the number of area rangers, you have the number of appointments that we can schedule each week. I will say with the past 30 to 60 days, every week we have had appointment slots open. So that does not mean that the rangers are sitting here not doing anything. They have other inspections that they're doing in those open time slots. But my point in saying that is, if you call us and you have a concern, it is very likely that we can get out there within a week or two to meet with you and review your request or the concern that you have. Some of the process questions, we have a great admin team now. The 2, Adam, who you met, and Debbie, who you didn't get to meet, are 2 of the best admin people that we've had in my 19 years here. They are really great, easy to work with, willing to help you if you have any questions about why isn't something moving through. We're in a better spot now as far as communicating with the public and meeting needs than we have been in a long time. And we want to build that relationship with you all. We want to grow that trust, the public's trust in us. So please, if you have any concerns, give it one more shot, reach out to us and let us try to help you.
Thank you. I'm gonna stay with you. You're doing so great. I'm gonna stay with you a bit. Gonna give it, let's say, till 12:15, and then we'll have to stop. But renewal time frame. How do the renewals work? The renewals come up in the database, and they do get mailed out. But tell me, first letter, second letter, etc.
Okay.
Tell them. Sorry.
Sure. So, 3 months prior to an expiration date, a work order will be generated for the area rangers to come out and do an inspection. Following that, they have 30 days to complete that inspection. After that inspection, a letter will be generated that will be postal mailed to all of the permittees saying it is time to renew your permit. So you should expect that roughly 2 months prior to expiration. At that point, you'll have paperwork to sign, the payment to submit, and then it'll come back to our staff. Once you submit it to us, it goes to the admin section. So that is Adam and Debbie, and they have been able to turn that around very quickly. And like Tim said, the majority of the backlog is with me, frankly, and getting it signed and out the door. So I would expect a normal routine renewal without any sort of changes. So it starts 3 months prior to expiration. We do an inspection, mail out the letters 2 months prior to expiration, depending upon how quickly it comes back to us. Our goal is to then turn it around and get it back to you before it expires. I might have lost track of what we were looking for.
Just renewal, yeah. First letter, second letter.
Okay. If there is no response from the public, we will send out a reminder letter when the permit expires. So the first letter goes out 2 months, second letter 2 months prior to expiration, second letter goes out on the expiration date. If there is still no response, it can generate a warning letter, which basically says we've tried to contact you, we haven't had any response. you now have an unauthorized structure on the lake. Here is your warning. Please submit the required paperwork to our office. We have been sending some of those, and they usually get great response. So that would typically go out 30 to 60 days past expiration. And then if we still have no response, it can go to a citation letter, which then the individual ends up in court. If we have no response from any of that, the rangers are constantly in the field trying to knock on doors, catch people, not catch people, but just meet people at their house to try to get some sort of response and get these addressed. But all of that is post expiration.
All right, I'm gonna just run down a few things real quick. I found, I'm gonna include a sheet with web addresses. I'm gonna include a sheet also with the current 4 area maps. Now, for the most part, people will be able to tell what areas they're in, but it's not gonna be at this time a map detailed enough. As if the line's going to the back of a cove, it may be a little bit tricky, but that's the best we got right now. We've got them separated in the database so we can figure it out. So if you're on the border of 2 areas, I don't know, you want an email coming to both areas?
Either that, or do your best to pick and send an email or call the area ranger that you think you're in. They will get you to the right person if it is not in their area. And frankly, I have been very impressed with a lot of the new staff that we have are very willing to help people that are not in their area. So our goal is to help you. If you get to the wrong area ranger, either that person will help you or we'll get you to that right person.
My pen keeps falling off, so. All right, I'm gonna go a couple dock sizes. If you have asked for a larger dock size and the rangers told you no, there's nothing else we can do, that gets into spacing. Again, that's gonna be primary to your ranger. Storage capacity in the reservoir, we've done our erosion and sedimentation study. It was done in 2011. We're due to have another one done, but at the time, the storage capacity impacts from erosion and sedimentation, I think it was about 3%. So again, we're talking, the storage capacity of the reservoir is large. So that's 3% of the entire reservoir storage capacity. And that's out in the big areas. So the problem with that is the backs of creeks and coves around the lake where there's a lot of docks, that's where it's going to fill up first. So the heavier impact is back there impacting more people. But in the big picture, even from the Corps of Engineers perspective, it so far has had very little impact on overall storage capacity. Handicap access, again, call the area ranger. Those are handled on a case-by-case basis. In-person meetings in this office, thanks for asking that, because I've been trying to figure out how to communicate this. We are ready to open up for in-person meetings. We can have individually scheduled meetings in the office. From a COVID perspective, we're ready to do that. The problem, I shouldn't say the problem, the timing comes in is that we're doing some renovations inside the office to help us with protections. So in essence, we're going to move from the office being closed because of COVID to the office being closed because of construction. I am hoping, and I'll have to check with our contractor, that we could have the office open by August 1st. But that's going to depend on some of the renovations being done. A lot of questions, various types of questions about trees. I'm going to defer that to our website. Same menu. We did a tree fact sheet, actually as a result of the last meeting or webinar, I believe. Red markings on trees. Those are our property line markings. We will put 2 lines on the side of a tree Now, it doesn't say the line is right there, but if it's on a particular side of the tree, it means the line is nearby, typically within 6 feet. If there's 3 lines on a tree, I would ask you to look toward the bottom of the tree all the way around it and see if there's a dot at the bottom. 3 lines means you're at the corner of our property, and wherever that dot is pointing to where the corner would be. It helps us when we're doing our boundary line to go find our monuments and markers and identify where the line is. It also helps the public. Sometimes may confuse the public because they don't know what they are. But if you see a tree with red paint on it, our property line is nearby. Another good question and this is specific to mowing, but there's other issues here. When I went to the website, you saw me point to the 2004 Shoreline Management Plan, and then we also had the 1988 Shoreline Management Plan on there. Our first Shoreline Management Plan was, I think, 1974. And before 1974, there was no Shoreline Management Plan. So here, this gives us, it's confusing and gives us bad image and perception. But under any particular Shoreline Management Plan, for example, if mowing was allowed in the 1974 plan and that permit was issued, as long as that permit stays in good standing all the way up to today, we will reissue that permit with mowing. But if you received a permit under the 2004 plan or maybe even the 88 plan, I can't remember, whenever plan restricted it, you're not allowed to have mowing, so we will not let you have mowing. So that provides the perception that we're treating people differently. And in some cases, we are treating them differently. But the reason they're being treated differently is one individual had a permit under one set of rules, and another individual gets a permit under another set of rules. We're not going to go back and just yank the previous authorizations. They will remain grandfathered. But it does give a perception of, well, my neighbor can do this and I can't. And we understand that, so we do explain that under previous plans, it might have authorized activities that aren't authorized now, and that's why someone new may not be able to do it or newer. There's a bunch more questions in there. Jennifer, if you can help me or you capture those and get them to me afterwards somehow, we'll get them answered. I'll get them back to you because I don't know how to get back directly to these people that are on here, and I still can't hear you.
So you can't hear my answer.
Great, thank you.
Yes, we will get those to
I will
Tim.
ask, because we got to run here, but I'll get the websites and the area map and email addresses to you tomorrow. Is that all right? Before you upload this thing or attach it or whatever?
Yes. We will upload it then, plan to upload it then. I'll text you with my answer. But the answer is yes. So we will plan to upload it tomorrow then and get all this information in there. And then also try to email it out to everybody whose information that we have in your emails. If your question did not get answered, send it to us through email. Again, I'm going to pull the question and answer list from the Zoom, but in case, send it to our email, either jflowers@lakelanier.org or lakeinfo@lakelanier.org. One to the same place. So if you will, just let us know. I don't, thank you so much, Tim. You can't hear me, but thank you for everything. I'll text it to you, the thank you. I don't know if John wants to. I'm sorry.
I'm going to say bye now. I can't hear you. I don't know what's going on. I want to thank you. I apologize to you and everybody for the sound issues. I don't know if it's my old age and technology or what. It baffles me as it worked and also it didn't work. But anyway, we're going to run. Thank you. We'll be in touch tomorrow and we'll do it again in another 4 or 5 months or something.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you everybody for joining us. John, do you want to hop on and say anything before we end the webinar?
Yes, if I could, and it's a shame that Tim can't hear us because he deserves a big thank you for spending this hour and 45 minutes with us, answering the questions that he did and covering all the topics that he did. I know I learned something, and I hope most of our people who participated got some new information and perhaps got some of their questions answered. We try to be as diligent as we can to get the questions answered that weren't answered and get that information back to you. And we're committed to continuing this process and continuing these webinars going forward to try and give the Corps more opportunity and more face time, frankly, with our members and participants to get their questions answered. So thank you so much. Apologize for the technical difficulties. We're going to work through that. We'll do better next time. And hopefully everybody has a safe and happy 4th of July. Take
Yes,
care.
and if you don't hear back from us and you do have a question, please send it to us again. With all of the questions that came in, if we missed you, we don't intend to. So just kind of send us another email, send it on over. It's not intentional if we don't get that answered. So we definitely want to make sure that everyone gets all the information that they would like. So thank you all for joining us and for hanging in there. And until next time, we'll see you later. Thank you.